Why does it do the balloons when I give my peace sign? You are listening to Thank Me for My Cervix, a podcast where we talk about all things mental health with a focus in the veteran and the military community. I am not using my headset today because I'm going to listen to audio back and compare and contrast what it sounds like with my headset and mic and see if it's making a big difference. So if this episode sucks, I'm sorry. All right, as always, you can watch every episode live right here on Instagram. Or you can listen to the audio on Spotify, and you can watch the reruns on YouTube. We still have shirts, so get your shirt, support your favorite podcast, and you'll be supporting Left Foot, Right Foot, who's also coming as a guest on my podcast in the future, so I'm super excited about that. And all of his proceeds from his shirts that he makes and sells are donated to veterans in need. All the proceeds are. So it's super awesome, and you can support Thank Me for My Cervix, which is always great too. Also, if you are looking to come on the podcast, there is a new scheduling link in my bio. You just pick a day and I'll message you back and forth once I see that you filled that out, and we'll get you on here and you can talk with me. It's like therapy. This is like a one-on-one therapy with me, although I'm not licensed to give advice. So my advice is probably going to be not the best that you could get, but that's not the point. All right. Anyway, today's guest, I am super excited. I actually reached out to her and was like, because she's super supportive of all my stuff. And I was like, girl, you got to come on and talk with me. So we're going to get Nikki on. As soon as she requests to join, Nikki, I see that you're here. Can you request to join, my friend? And we'll get her on. Super excited. She was in the Navy. My sisterhood. There she is. All right. It always takes just a minute. Where is she? Yay! Are you driving? You better be careful.
It's fine. I have like one of those little things that you stick on your phone into, so like your.
Okay.
You know
as
what
long
I mean?
as you promise to be paying more attention to driving.
Oh yes.
Well, thank you for squeezing me in then. Or what are you doing? Are you on your way to work?
No, I just got done. Today was like a tutoring day. We have a bunch of finals next week, so just making sure that I'm studying the right things.
That's perfect. Okay. Well, good. So we're going to start with a little bit. I sent you that thing. I don't even know if you got the chance to look at it because you're so busy. But I sent you like a little guideline stuff I want to talk about.
I did look at that.
So the first, I just want to know a little bit about like where you grew up and why you chose the Navy.
So I grew up. Well, I was an Army brat. My dad he's retired now. Was an officer in the Army. But when my parents got divorced, we moved back to Ohio with my mom's family.
What part of Ohio?
It's Aurora.
Okay.
Yep. So like my whole family lives on like the same little freaking neighborhood, like walking distance to everybody.
I love that.
Yeah. So I'm hoping my husband gets out of the military soon, so that way we can move to Ohio.
What branch is he in?
He's Navy also, so we have the same NEC. He actually just is getting done with training to move to a different NEC. But yeah, we both went in as ADTs for the Navy, so the aviation corpsman.
Okay, that's awesome. Yep. Nice. And how long has he been in? How long has he been doing that?
So he has been in, this is year 7 now. March is his 7th year.
And was there a time when you were both in together?
Yeah, our whole career. So I literally just got out. So April 11th will be my official 1-year mark of close to 14.
That's exciting.
Yep.
Okay.
But,
so are you a new mother too? How old? I'm so sorry. How old's your baby?
Leo will be 4 in May.
Okay.
So
that's still kind of new.
Yeah.
Especially like when you're you spent your time being in the military, and then you're transitioning out, trying to figure out what you want to do, and then you also have a toddler, which is arguably more stressful than a little baby.
Yeah.
I would argue that.
Yes, it is hard.
Yeah.
Because Matt went from deployable status to going for training. So like the last couple of years, it's just been, me and my little homie fighting to get by.
I know.
Yeah.
That's funny because we probably lived similar aspects of that, because I got out when I was still married to my spouse who was in, and then I had kids back to back. And he was going and doing all this deploying while I was trying to figure out
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that was one of like the strains, I guess, that on our marriage at that time. Because I was very lost. And I can relate to that when I'm not saying that you're lost, but I can relate to the transitioning period of being a young mother and trying to find your job after
lost in that period,
the military.
You're just like, it's definitely, I wouldn't say lost, but you are lost because you're essentially trying to figure everything out. So, yeah, you're like a little lost boy in that song.
What I will say too, even for that mindset, is when you are in the military and you're fit and you're young and you're doing all this stuff, and then you get pregnant, and then your body goes through all these hormonal changes, and your life, it is not talked about enough how much change a woman's body goes through pregnancy.
Yes,
and then
was just
after
doing a consult with one who she focuses on like your hormones and stuff like that, and like she was like going through like how like even like 5-6 years down the line post pregnancy, your body is just still depleted of all of those natural minerals that you normally have, and like most people don't think of it, and it's why so many postpartum moms have so much trouble losing the weight, because they don't understand that their body has just been depleted of like everything. It's crazy.
After being blasted with all of it. So the moment that you get pregnant, your body is blasted with all these hormones, all of these changes. So like your hair grows, you're glowing, everyone's like, "Ooh, you look so good." Well, people don't realize that after you get that baby out of your system, your body's like, "Well, I don't need this anymore." And in some cases, it's like, "I don't need this at all." So you just poof. And I've had hair clients that chunks of hair will come out. And I know it's like, oh, that's just hair. But to someone who feels beautiful through that, losing that is a mental aspect, in addition to the fact that they're already upset and depressed from these lack of hormones in their body.
Well, not only that, like if you're a military mom and you have to follow your hair regulations, and now you can't because you're just pulling globs of hair out every time you shower or brush your hair, and then you have some man breathing down your neck telling you that your hair's not, get fucked.
Seriously?
Like, are you kidding me? Yes.
Like, I'm just happy I have hair, okay?
Like, be happy it's being pulled into something, okay?
I know.
Mind your business.
That's actually something that I've never talked about on here, and I think it's something that we should talk about, because women with hair losses, even if they haven't had a child, women who are constantly slicking their hair back in the same manner, you will start to notice that your hair actually loses faster here. Women, if you are young in your career, switch that part up. Find a way to cut some things.
Also, switch the part up, but I found, so like, use the alcohol-free gels, ladies. Do yourself a favor. Do the alcohol-free gels. But also, don't put, like, I will start my gel, like, here. I don't put it at the root. So many put it at the root. And then they take their little floss, and they're like, stop doing that. Stop.
I think
I
will say, because I was a female Marine, you know, and we're in that aspect, our hair regulations are stupid. And you can't have flyaways, at least when I was in. So that's why they do that. They want to see that hard part. But for your hair care, figure out
But like
a
that's the
length
thing.
width.
Like you can literally get that hard part by starting slightly down, and then just put a little hairspray in that spot, and then
Or oil.
I know.
Girls are always worried about their hair being oily. Oils are the natural way for your hair. So use that natural oil. Slick your shit down with some oil. That's fine.
Might as well.
It looks the same. So yeah, that's actually I'm glad that we're talking about that, because I've seen, like, you see that, like, that female Marine, I'll use her as an example, has been in for like 15 years, but her hair's all the way back here because she was slicking it straight back. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
just give your hair a break, sweet. Okay.
I don't think so many that are so young in their careers, I don't think they understand just how much the, like, them following to a T those hair regulations, just how much it chips away at their mental health little by little. I don't think they fully understand, and then they don't realize that it's putting them in like a negative body image and chipping away at their confidence and level in themselves until they start to see that receding hairline and all of that starting to happen.
You know what I really don't like, and we can talk about this too, even though we're not ethnic, but women of color, their hair regulations across the board, it's not fair.
It's not fair. It's not fair.
Because that's
their
natural hair texture.
Yeah, and they make, the military makes accommodations for, oh, you're female, you're male. There's absolutely no reason as to why they can't make separate accommodations within the female ranks to accommodate. Especially with now we're having so many more, people of minority colors coming in to the military. You're not just all, white or Spanish. And even then, a lot of Spanish, they have that, they have
that
more of those tight curls in there. It's the hair regulations in the military, I tell you, what they truly
considered professional needs to be changed. Because there's been times when I go to work, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have my hair curly because it doesn't look as professional. This is my natural hair.
Yeah, I have natural, very curly hair, and I never feel like it's professional.
And why? That's what we were given. A beautiful black woman with a big afro, she should be able to join the military and rock her natural afro. Yes, we need to change that.
She should. I
actually just saw
some of those, those afros, especially because, they keep them very well maintained.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
They have to.
They keep them very well maintained. So they probably would have slicker and neater and more professional hair than some of the females coming in with the fucking ponytails.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I think I just saw something, someone posted, and this is for the Air Force though, so I don't know if it's going across the board, that they're actually changing the nail color policy, that they're going to start allowing more nail colors.
I've never been one to really care about that.
I don't either.
I feel like when you join the military, you give up so much of who you are that as long as it's nothing, absurdly gaudy or interferes with the mission, I don't see why you can't. Like, I'm sorry, but if somebody wants red nail polish, does that really affect anything? You know what I mean? I don't care.
Sometimes I feel like there's rules in place just so that there's rules.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's kind of like
in a deployable status, yes.
You can't get your nails done. Yeah, cool. Okay.
You can't get your nails done. So you're not going to have it. Is it fair of your chain of command to say, hey, we deploy in X amount of days, take that nail polish off? Yes, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're on shore duty or not deployable and you're just going into your shop and going home, unless if you work in an area where, like, if it chips off, it can, cause some damage.
Oh, that's a good point.
But in that case, you wouldn't be wearing the approved colors anyway.
Right.
So.
Yeah, because I was when I worked on helicopters, And we couldn't have the acrylic, like the fake, because the last thing you wanted was for one to break off and go somewhere it shouldn't. So I get that. Cool. Yeah.
And like with medical, you don't want to have, a lot say don't do the acrylic, or at least it can't be super long. And it's because bacteria can breed under it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I personally wouldn't want my medical professional touching areas of me that are already infected when they got bacteria under their nails.
That's true. That's true.
So I do agree with some things, yeah.
Why did you pick the Navy?
So I went through and got my bachelor's in chemistry, right? But I knew that, like, something was missing. Like, all of my internships and everything that I was doing, it just felt like I didn't want to do it. Like, I just, you know what I mean? Like, when you're doing something that you actually enjoy, but, like, something's just missing, I realized all I liked was, like, the learning of it. I didn't like the actual job portion. So when I was putting myself through college, I was a nurse's tech. So I'd already been in the military, or not in the military, in the medical field.
Yeah.
So, when I was talking to my mom and my dad, and like I said, my dad, at the time, he was still in the Army. My mom met my dad when she was in the Army. So they both were military. So, I was telling my mom and my dad, like, I just feel lost in this. Like, I'm not really sure where I want to go. I just know that I don't want to do this. So my mom was like, well, why don't you go into the military, go as a medic, because then you already know you like the medical field, and this will open your door to a whole bunch of other realms, because I knew I didn't want to be a nurse. I was a nurse's tech. My mom's an ICU nurse. I know the shit that nurses go through. I knew I did not want to be a nurse. Nurses,
that has never been something I'm interested in, ever. I hear my friends are in it, I'm like, no.
The burnout is crazy. I knew I would burn out. Like nurses are of a different mental area that I am not in.
Me too. So I love them, and I appreciate them, not me.
Yep, they're amazing. I cannot be one. So my mom had a point. I was like, yeah, it'll definitely open my eyes to a lot. And then my dad was like, just don't go Army. Just don't go Army. So
did he say
I was like, okay.
Why?
Because of military sexual trauma. And the amount, and my dad was, he has daughters, you know what I mean? He has me, my stepsister. So, he was always a real big advocate and, champion for his women in his area that came to him.
I love that.
He wasn't one that liked to sweep it under the rug. He wanted to hold them accountable, so he unfortunately had to deal with a lot of that. So when I was getting ready to go, he was like, don't do Army. So I did not do Army. My sibling was in the Air Force, and a lot of every time M would go into like medical and stuff like that, just had like a really bad experience. So I didn't know that I wanted to go Air Force just because I had already had, heard bad stories of like my family in it. So I was like, okay. So then I went to meet, so at that point it was down, Navy or Air Force, right? Because I didn't really know much about the Coast Guard. And I don't even think there was a Coast Guard recruiter near me for me to learn.
They're hard to get. Hold up, because I tried to join the Coast Guard too.
Right? So I was like, okay, Navy or Air Force. So I went to meet with like the Navy recruiter, and just all of the different options that you have for medical within the Navy really sold me.
Yeah.
Because, that's why I was enlisting. I wanted to have all of those different options, and I wanted to, find my peace. So that's why I chose the Navy. And then the Navy just, they want to train you. They want you to be in so many different areas, right? So, yeah, it was a good choice for me because it basically, with the Navy, I went aviation, so I got to learn, the flight side of it. And then on top of that, because, obviously, you're a Marine. So Navy are your docs, right?
My
So
ride.
exactly. So I got to learn all of the field care and the emergency part of it, and that, I love
Yeah.
that. And then that's where I kind of, between flight and greenside medicine is where I kind of found my, love for the airway, which is why I chose respiratory therapy, because
Ah.
it's all of everything I want. And then, I also know I don't want to just stop there. So it's a good bridge into PA school. And then once I'm in PA school, once I'm done with that, I can specialize back into pulmonology.
So what would be your ultimate goal career-wise?
Probably to be a PA for like an interventionist or a pulmonologist. So that way, when you're in the ICU or you're in the ER and you're having airway issues, things like that, like I would be your
Ooh.
doctor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yep.
How common is that job needed? Like I've never even heard of that before.
It's pretty, so a lot of times when you're in the hospital, and unless if you're like paying attention to like the actual like tags, a lot of
Terminology.
times, yeah, a lot of times you're being seen by a PA. A lot of times.
Yeah.
If you're not being seen by a resident or an intern, you're being seen by the PA a lot of times.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And so how much more schooling do you have to go through for that?
So I graduate in November for respiratory, and then
That's exciting.
I know, and then hopefully I can land a job at the VA. That's really where, everyone's always like, ooh, the VA. But like for me, I really like, what I loved being a corpsman in the, active duty was I liked being that small little light, right? Like I knew that my patients, my people, my command knew that they could come to me and that they would be heard and that things would be figured out. I was a huge champion for whoever my patient was. I didn't care what the issue was. I championed you. You were heard. And for me, I'm really excited at potentially getting to work at the VA because I think that is missing in the
Oh
veterans
my
world.
God, I
It's
know.
missing. So if I can, and even though I'm just going to be a respiratory therapist, but still, that is, we see people for COPD, we see people for asthma. Like you're seeing a respiratory therapist for things that you don't realize you would be seeing. Even if
Yeah.
if you're an attempted SI, you're going to be seen by a respiratory therapist as well in part of because you're on a ventilator 9 times out of 10, and we run the ventilators. So you're going to be seen by us. So there's so many different aspects that even though I'm just going to be a respiratory therapist, I can still find a way to champion for my patients, which is what they're
To be
missing.
that difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
I can see how that would
excited
be
to
really rewarding. Like
Mhm.
really rewarding.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna look at my little notes here. Motherhood. I do want to talk more about that in the postpartum because gosh, it's so hard. I know that I like this podcast to be about like the military mental health and like letting people know that they're not alone. But the motherhood and honestly even fatherhood in correlation with the military is just not talked about.
Yeah, it's not. It's hard. Like
yeah.
this, case in point, my son will be 4 this year, right? And this is going to be the first year that my husband.
Hold on, yeah, repeat that. The first year that your husband what? Yeah, repeat that one time because it cut out a little bit. Is this the first year that your husband what?
Will get to actually spend Easter with my son. So, we're doing all the things, we're going all out. But yeah, because he's been either deployed on detachment or at a training. So this is his first year because we had Leo right at the tail end of him finishing, his shore duty, because I was on sea duty and then obviously went to pregnancy orders. And then once my pregnancy orders were up, he went sea duty. So
Yeah, and okay, like what people don't talk about with like the father aspect is they're like, well, they're so young, the kid's not gonna remember it anyway, and when they get older, they'll remember it.
but the father
It's
does.
exactly. It's not just about the kid, because the kid, as long as the mother is there being the dad's like, yeah, dad's excited for this, like the mother can keep the father active
Yeah.
in that kid's life. You cannot do anything about the fact that that father is not getting that time with the son, with the children. And in life we tend to think like, oh, kids experience, but like, when do you stop being a kid? When does my experience no longer matter and it's about the kids?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
not how it should be. We should be understanding that that time is also for that father to get the chance to live that life being the father. And finding that balance of being like, okay, you're in the military, you have a job to do, and then but also being like, okay, you have your own life.
Yep.
It's like,
Yep.
the military member is the one in charge of finding that balance.
Yep.
And remembering that your job is not forever. And I know it feels like forever because you've been in that forever, but you also need to think about you forever.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that it's not something that gets addressed that much, and it's definitely something, I could see taking a toll on my husband. And thankfully I'm very big into mental health, and I can notice things and I can pinpoint them, and his feelings about it didn't have to escalate to anything tragic, but it was definitely something that he had to address and get taken care of. But
and that's all you need. It's just to be like, okay, this is how I feel. How can I make this better? And like, you guys are like, you're going all out for Easter, so you're making the most of the time that you do have. And it's okay to acknowledge being like, man, I missed all this time and that sucks. Okay. All right. Well, now I'm going to make more of this time that I do have.
Exactly.
And that's sometimes hard because it's hard not to be like, oh, I missed all this time, and then think about the times that you missed instead of like being in that moment, like right now. But
and it's
I'm
crazy
glad
too, because like, you think of like single mothers in the military, right? And always when a deployment or detachment is coming up, it's always, oh, I'm so sorry, you're gonna miss this time out with your baby.
Oh, I know.
But we don't extend that same thought process to the men. It's
No.
kind of a double standard that's really ridiculous. And I don't think people realize that just that double standard in itself is why you have so many men depressed or ignoring that they're depressed, and then trying something, and it's
well, because that goes into that like stigma that men can't talk about their feelings. They're not nurturing, they're not caring, they don't care that they're missing this time. That's obviously not true, but
they care. Exactly. They just don't say they care because, one, their chain of command thinks they shouldn't care, or two, their buddy is going to make fun of them for caring when their buddy's like a 19-year-old that's got no children and 7 side pieces. Like,
yeah. And at the end of the day, they're going to wish that they had that too.
Exactly.
Everything that you're providing in this life, like, you can't take it for granted.
No,
and
you can't.
It's so hard to just really, but it's a mindset shift, because I do it now without even realizing. The way that I think, this is an example, and I'd actually kind of want to talk about this just in case he ever found my podcast. When I was leaving a doctor's appointment, I hit a curb and my tire went flat. How I hit the curb kind of hit me, doesn't matter. That part doesn't matter. So I'm trying to change my tire on the side of the road, which I am a strong, independent woman, and I have no problem changing tires.
Yeah.
But this was like missing the thing that actually like pumped it up. So I was stuck on the side of the road for a hot minute. And there was this food truck guy that I was blocking in. Like, I had just gotten off the side of the road. My car was not going anywhere because my tire was flat. And this guy comes over and was like, can I help you change that? And it took him forever too, because he was like turning it with, it just took a long time. But long story short, he was like, yeah, I just got out of the military. My wife and I have just been struggling, blah, 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 like talking to me. And I was like, oh, well, I have a podcast about mental health. So thank me for my cervix if you want to find it. And I love that my name's so funny because people are like, oh, thank me for my cervix. Yeah.
Right.
So like leaving there, I was like, man, now I have to pay for a new tire, and I am an idiot for letting a curb hit me. But I met this guy who like maybe needed to meet me.
Yeah.
And so it's like a mindset where I'm like, that happened on purpose because yeah, I'm losing money for this tire, but what if that guy eventually finds my podcast and he watches one of my episodes and is like, she's right, and I'm not doing as bad off as I thought I was, or people can relate to what I'm saying, and now he feels better. So that's a mindset change, because some people could be like, oh, I have a flat tire, I'm just out $100 and that sucks. And it does suck. I'm not saying it doesn't suck, and you can acknowledge that it sucks, but
you don't have to dwell in that it sucks.
It might have happened for a reason. And it's like finding those like little reasons.
And I think that mindset shift just kind of applies to everything. Like, so I have mental health advocate in my Instagram bio. And like at first when I put that in, I was like, oh, so many people make fun of people that have that in there, right? I was like, I don't really want to be one of those people, you know what I mean? But I was like, no, because, I do take it out of my time to anybody that, wants to create a relationship with me and like talk and like things like that. I talk to them, you know what I mean? Like my followers, like I respond and I talk to them and things like that.
I try my best to too.
And it's funny because 3 instances I've had, because of just having that in there, I've had 3 people that I've formed, pretty decent, talking relationships with, and they've just all of a sudden notice that it says it in there, and they're like, I noticed that you have mental health advocate in your profile and I'm struggling. Can I talk to you? 3 separate people. 2 I've helped facilitate them getting the help they need to get a med board, and 1 I helped facilitate to get the help they needed from the VA. So that's 3 people that could have potentially done something stupid and not been here anymore, that just because they see in my profile mental health advocate, and I've created that trust in them already, that something in their subconscious finally notices it and finally says, say something.
I love that.
I will never take it out of my bio. Never.
It's in mine too, I think. I'm pretty sure I have it.
I don't care how many grouchy, stuck-up, salty vets want to make fun of people that have that in there. I don't care, because the fact that 3 people in their lowest of lows have seen that and said, I'm going to actually reach out for help, all because she had that in there, I will never take it out. I will never take it out.
I love that.
I really never.
Because I always, like, when I'm thinking to myself about things that I want to say, like what do I want people to know about me? It is that, like, the views, the followers, that has never mattered to me. It doesn't matter to me when it comes to like my OnlyFans. It doesn't matter if it comes to my modeling, my page, my hair, nothing.
Yeah,
if I do one girl's hair, and she's like, I hated the way I looked before, I hated the way I felt, and now I love it, then boom, that is exactly what I wanted to do. And that really nothing else matters. Yep. And I'll tell you, I have already done that.
Yep.
So I do hair because I genuinely enjoy it, not because I'm hoping to get famous off of doing hair. And I feel the same way about this podcast. People are like, oh, well, your followers or whatever. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I've never cared. If I have one person, and I've had one person saying, I love what you're doing, it's helped. Guess what? I'm going to keep doing it, because even if people aren't reaching out to me saying that, I don't need them to. I'm okay with people just seeing this and being like, she's doing something good here, and then that's it.
Yeah. Or even you have somebody on it that person resonates with, and they might not reach out to you, but they reach out to that person because they resonated with that person, and in that moment saw a glimmer of light and reached for it. That's all that matters.
Exactly. And that goes back to everything happens for a reason, because I've had people send me people too that they're like, oh, this person would be awesome on your podcast. So I'm like following new people, reaching out to new people, and it's just like it's kind of all happening really fast too, which I love.
Yeah.
It's so great. But it's that's what it's about for me.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
I do feel like it's been like a little weird shift, because it's even the people who I thought like would not reach out, they're like, I thought they would be like, you're weird for even trying to do this, are the people who being like, dude, you're doing something, like you're
Yeah.
doing it. And
Yep.
I like that there's like that little mind, like it's definitely a shift.
It definitely is. Yep.
And it's unfortunately, I don't want to say it like this, but it's the men that are helping with that shift, because we're notorious for being like, let's talk about our feelings. How does this make you feel? And guys are usually were the ones being like, oh no, I don't want to talk about it. But them being like, all right, I'll talk about it. Slowly and surely is kind of like doing this like little spin wheel, and now it's like, all right, if he can talk about it, we can all talk about it. And I love that.
Two of the three were actually men, and I'm very thankful that they felt comfortable enough to talk to me about that. Especially because I'm married, so I don't really, if a man is reaching out, talking to me in my DMs, like I keep it very professional, platonic. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, keep your shit away from me. You know what I mean?
Unless it's mental health.
But the fact that even just that very basis, borderline, I allow you into my world, but like not that far into my world. But the fact that they were struggling and they still felt like the minor communications that we had, plus that I will advocate for you and I will help you and I will help push you where you need to go, that they felt comfortable with that, that's worth it. Yeah.
I love that so much. You're awesome,
Yep.
dude. Okay. I want to talk a little bit too before I let you go about like injury and medical negligence and talking about how you handled that.
Oh God. So it was in FMTV. It was in FMTV, right? And I'm short. You're carry. I mean, you're a Marine. You carry a lot of weight. You're hiking with like the tall fucking people that are going a million miles a minute, right? So it started because of all of the hiking, but then the IDC that we had there just refused to do anything, right? Got it in her mindset of, let's just get you through this course. Your next command will deal with it. Didn't take a scan, didn't take anything. And like, mind you, if in the hip, if it's bursitis, physical therapy for that is going to be treated differently than if it's a fracture. If it's a fracture, you shouldn't be doing anything. If it's a tear in like your labia, like your labrum, you're going to be doing something different than if it's bursitis. You have to have these scans so that way you can treat it accordingly, right? Wouldn't scan, nothing. Her idea of fixing me was give me more NSAIDs and on the low talk to my instructors to have me light duty, but without putting me light duty so I could graduate. So like basically I wouldn't have to march in formation everywhere we went. Me and somebody else would walk there because marching made me want to pass out. So that way all I was doing was PT and hiking and all of our medical drills. That's all I was doing. Mind you, so this course is 2 months long, right? 2 weeks in, I started having the pain in my hip. So for 6 weeks, every Tuesday, I was going to sick call complaining. And for 6 weeks, she was just saying nothing. Like, you're fine. And, small blessings from it. Like one of her corpsmen who was in like the students awaiting tradition platoon. So one of her corpsmen that was working with her turns out to be one of my best friends today. Like Rebecca Lynn is my savior. But every time, like the only reason I didn't feel like I was going literally insane is because she was the only one acknowledging something is definitely wrong, something is wrong. But the IDC didn't care, didn't listen to her, and like every time I call it my, I call it my, I call I call it my drunk pimp walk or drunk penguin walk because I either because it was fractured, I couldn't fucking walk. So I either looked like I was a drunk pimp with that like pimp lean or a drunk penguin trying to walk. Like it was bad. Like it was bad.
Yeah. But
So
before I forget, you know what I hate about you not being put on light duty? Don't forget where you were at in your story, because I'll forget. But this is what I want to add before I forget. Not putting you on light duty. Now people see the male mind, or not even just male, females do it too. I'm sorry. I
because
take
it was
that. I take that
female
back.
IDC. Yeah, it was a female IDC.
Yeah, if they see that you are like injured or you're acting like you're injured but you're not being put on light duty, that adds another stigma to, because in the military females are known for being injured and hurt.
Yeah.
Sucks. That's just the truth. It's just the truth. And are they actually injured? I would say most times yes. But by doctor not acknowledging that you're injured and you being treated differently but not put on light duty is bullshit.
Yep. It is.
Because that affects how the male how your other service members look at you, because you're not being acknowledged but looks like you're milking something, and I hate that. I hate that. I'm sorry, continue.
Thankfully, I had really great instructors who also agreed something was fucking wrong.
Good.
And then, like, the student platoon leader was actually my instructor back in AVT school. And he knew that I was not a malingerer and I didn't, like, I'd push through fucking anything and everything. So the fact that I was literally, like, you could see my eyes tearing up just walking, he was like, something's not fucking right. Okay. And they would literally be the ones to, like, say, go to sick call. And I'd come back, like, got more leave. Like, it was wild. But, like, you could literally see the progression. Like, Rebecca Lynn would literally be like, you can see the progression of how bad it got. So then the last week, I end up heat casing, and I fall on my hip. So when we're leaving medical, because again, I didn't fucking do anything, they treated the heat case, not the hip injury. So then, as my friends were like carrying me, like helping me walk back to the barracks, I was like, Sam, like I can't feel my foot. Like my foot is tingly. I cannot feel it. Like I cannot walk. And she texted Rebecca Lynn, and she was like, clinic closes in 20 fucking minutes as soon as it's done. Like, you guys don't sign out. I don't care what the rules are. Someone drives her to the emergency room. Because, you know, once the clinic is closed, that's when you can go to the emergency room. So we didn't think anything of it because, like, you know, we're in the mindset of everybody's telling us that it's nothing. So why would I get admitted? Like, you know what I mean? So we didn't tell anyone other than Rebecca Lynn. We didn't tell anyone, and we just went. And then 3 scans later, I'm admitted because I have a 51 complete stress fracture in the femoral neck of my hip. 51% means 1% fractured into the blood supply of that joint, which means for the next 2 years, I was on clot monitoring. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Had I not heat cased that day, and I continued on my way and just continued life until my next command decided that it was something to deal with, my entire femoral neck could have completely severed.
Holy crap!
I would have been more susceptible to pulmonary embolisms. I could have been more susceptible to a clot traveling to my brain. So had I not heat cased that day,
damn,
it could have been worse. Yeah.
So, like, what happened after that?
So I got put on Limdu because obviously, right?
Yeah.
And she kept, like, the IDC kept, like, pushing everything, like, really fucking fast, right? Like, once I checked into Lejeune Hospital, even the Limdu coordinators there were like, we've never seen Limdu orders get pushed through this fast. And it's because people were starting to ask her questions. People were starting to ask her questions. I was
Did
pissed.
she get
and
fired?
No.
Of course she didn't.
She's not going to get fired. Well, partially. My mom also was extremely pissed, and she sued on my behalf.
Go, Mom.
So, she's trying to push my limb orders through fast, right? Mind you, I had co-location in. So I was like, no, you can take your time because I want my limb orders to make sure they reflect to me going to California to be with my husband. I don't want to be on limb in the barracks here by myself, non-weight bearing. Are you kidding me? Well, no, she doesn't listen to that. She's like, oh, no, that's why we need to do it fast. That's why we need to do it fast. No, I got limb orders down the street to Camp Lejeune Hospital and then had to go stay in the barracks. I lived with this 18-year-old Army girl who cried every fucking night, and I had to be her fucking mommy every night for a month. It was miserable. Mind you, I'm over here trying to, keep myself from going crazy because, it's like PTSD from just being told there's nothing wrong with you to them finding out there is something wrong with you. And mind you, I was running CFTs, I was running PFTs, I was running PRTs all on a fractured fucking hip. I was carrying ammo cans, I was ruck hiking with a fractured hip. You know what I mean? So, all of this stuff that I was doing that I shouldn't have been doing, it's just weighing on my mind. And, I just felt like I just felt broken in more than the one way. And then having to deal with crying McCryerson in the bed next to me. And then I don't know why she left. She left.
I wonder what she was going through. Isn't that sad? That's what I'm thinking about.
She was going through breakups. She was always somebody's side chick. She was always somebody's side chick. I was like, if you don't grow a backbone and get some fucking standards, please, for my sanity. But she ends up going somewhere. I don't know. I think the Army gave her BAH and she got an apartment or something. But
I truly hate, though, how common the story of medical neglect is. But what I will say is people might be able to go back and think about how I was prior. And I used to be, because I really didn't get injured too much while I was in until I got pregnant, which is unfortunate. But I had that mindset sometimes when there was the girls who were constantly on limb constantly not doing shit. I was like, they're malingering. Like fuck them.
And don't get me wrong. Decent amount malingering. I see it all the time as a corpsman trying to tell you I'm not giving you light duty for this.
But that's what
you see it a lot.
Is that there's the girls who truly need help.
Yep.
I wish that they could without the girls being able to malinger. And where is that guideline?
Yep.
Because I looking back now, I'm like, man, was I being a bitch? Were those girls really injured and medical was not acknowledging it? Or did they not want to do this shit and I was doing the right thing?
And that's why I always prided myself in really listening to everything that my patients would tell me and really advocating for them to get all of the things listen, every command I go to, if you tell me you have hip pain, you're getting an x-ray within the next 5 minutes.
Good. That's good, because then they can't, if it's
traumatized. If you tell me that you have a tingle in your hip, I'm like, x-ray.
X-ray. Because honestly, how hard is that? Just to check it off.
It's not hard. Go get the fucking x-ray. It's not hard. Literally, I would have flight surgeons like, I don't think they need it. No, I think they do.
Do a fucking
you don't even have to sit there and analyze it. Radiology is. I'll put the order in. It's fine.
Good. I'm so glad. See, I don't know if I could have that trust in the naval in the area that I was in during that time, but I did. And I had put so much trust in the medical field that they were saying whether or not these Marines were good. And it's nice to know that now there's military members that can do that, because it seems like you are very intelligent, you're very kind, and you do seem like you're doing your job the way you're supposed to. And if that's what is in the military now, then that's great, because then I know people are getting the help that they need, and the people that are malingering or saying that they are injured when they're not are being held accountable, and we kind of need both of those.
And it's unfortunate because I think that the ones like me are very few and far between. I will say, I think they're very few and far between, because it's like every command I would go to, I would have people saying, like, I don't think you need to do all of that. But I think I do.
Yeah.
So.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to thank you again so much for taking the time to come and talk to me, but I wanted to give you a chance to say anything that you wanted to say and tell people where to follow you.
So my Instagram is NI_KK_IE_1246. I don't know why I have such a long, obnoxious one, but whatever. But yeah, just, always push for yourself. If you feel like something's not right, and whether you're military or civilian or veteran, but if something feels off, it's off. If something feels off in your body, it's off. And if you have to doctor shop and push and fight and claw and demand, do it. Because if something feels off to you, it's off. And it could even just be something as simple as a hormone level is off. Maybe your thyroid's not functioning correctly. But it could be as serious as you have a fracture or you have cancer somewhere in you. A lot of times a cancer patient sits there and says something just didn't feel right. So if something doesn't feel right, advocate for yourself and really push. And if you are timid and you don't know how to advocate for yourself, reach out to anybody that has any medical experience and ask how to do it.
Yeah.
That goes anywhere from your body to your mind, because your brain and your mental health is part of your body. And if your mental health isn't in ship shape, it's the same as if you have a broken ankle. All connected. If something doesn't feel right, always please reach out and advocate for yourself. And if you can't do it, have somebody do it for you, because nobody deserves to have a fracture and feel like they're a crazy person because something's not right.
I hate that.
And nobody deserves to be in a dark space and feel like ending it is the only way to fix it. Like, nobody deserves to feel like that.
No.
So.
And I agree. And I would say, what I like about this podcast too is I'm hoping that, like, by doing this, it shows that we're both here for in whatever way it is that we can help.
My DMs will always be open to anybody that's struggling mentally or physically. They have physical symptoms that they don't know how to navigate. They don't know what should be ordered. I'm always ready and willing to help you navigate that.
I adore you so much. I am so glad I reached out to you to come on. Thank you so much for taking a full hour to come and talk to me. You're the best. All right, I'm gonna try to get this audio up by Tuesday, and we'll be in contact. So, Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. I've had fun.
Bye, girl.
Bye.